What's up, y'all? It's Dr. Paul with Liberty Hill Comics, where I share my passion and over 40 years of experience comic book collecting, investing, and conservation with you. Today, we're continuing the conservation project for this copy of Flash number 123, the first appearance of the Golden Age Flash Jay Garrick in the Silver Age, and the first acknowledgement of an alternate reality in which the Golden Age heroes exist, which is the beginning of the multiverse concept in comic books. Published in September 1961 by DC, it was written by Gardner Fox and drawn by Carmine Infantino. It is also the first appearance in the Silver Age of Golden Age Flash villains, the Fiddler, the Thinker, and the Shade. This is a huge Silver Age key without which the multiverse concept in both DC and Marvel Comics wouldn't exist. In Episode 1, we completed a thorough assessment of this book and developed a conservation game plan. This comic is in pretty good shape overall, with some minor flaws on the cover like a small hole. The biggest problem we uncovered is that it appears someone had this comic open to the centerfold when they spilled a can of Coke on it, and we have 3 interior wraps with significant staining. This comic book has a total of 8 inner wraps plus the cover. The affected wraps are 1, 6, 7, and 8, which is the centerfold, and appeared to be ground zero for the spill. The centerfold also had a spine split we need to address. The conservation plan looks like this. After disassembly and dry cleaning, we'll first wet clean, deacidify, and resize the cover, as well as seal the tear on the cover. Then, we'll turn our attention to the biggest challenge with this book, which will be to remove as much as we can of the stains to the interior wraps, without sacrificing too much in the way of ink fade or bleed. We'll start by working on the worst wrap first, the centerfold, and once we work out the best treatment for the centerfold, we'll use it on the rest of the wraps so we have consistency throughout. We'll start conservatively, and we'll do more and more invasive procedures until we get an outcome that we're happy with. Once we are satisfied with the stain removal, we'll repair the tear in the centerfold, and then it's all downhill. Drying, cold pressing, reassembly, refolding, and a final press. But the project won't be complete until we finish documenting the results. If you want to watch episode 1 before watching this one, just click on the playlist I've created for this project. Today, I'm going to disassemble this book so we can start working on the cover. Alright, let's get to work. Make sure you have clean and dry hands when you handle these treasures. There's the back of the centerfold and the next 2 wraps showing the worst of the staining. There's a couple spots on wraps 2 through 5, but nothing like what we have to deal with on wraps 6, 7, and 8 here. And this is the centerfold, wrap 8, interior wrap 8. If you've been around the channel for a while, you've seen me do this before. We're going to use 2 tools from Immaculate Comics, the Capable Staple Tool and the Flawless Staple Tool, which is the one I'm using now to pry up the arm of this lower staple. I like to use this tool from Rick Morgan over at Immaculate Comics for a number of reasons. It's Teflon coated, which makes it just a little bit less likely to mar the staple. This book actually has very nice staples, and vintage staples that are 60 years old have a certain patina to them. You really don't want to put scratches in that patina. Here I'm using another tool, just a block of plastic Delrin that I machined and drilled 1 small hole in. And I use this just because it gives me an even greater surface area over the paper to stabilize the book. Your goal here is to have nothing move except the one arm that you're attempting to bend at that time. If you have the rest of the body of the staple moving around, if you have the paper moving around, These things will create tears. They'll elongate the staple holes. There's already usually a lot of stress in that area. The paper's usually already worn, weak. Some of the fibers are already torn. That's going to lead to a pop staple. And in this case, it's a conserved book. Maybe it's not going to really affect the overall grade, but it's more work to do. And we'd like to leave as much of the original structure intact as possible. This is similar to hiking in a nature preserve. Leave no trace except footprints. We'd like to even minimize the footprints we leave if we can. So we want to, in every place where it's possible, take as low an impact and approach as we can and leave as few signs of our passing as possible. I have a piece of painter's tape here labeled T and B, and I'm going to remove these staples. I like to push and pull gently, and I'm going to keep the orientation as well as location of each. And one thing that I do is I'll just take a image there just in case they get screwed up down the road. I can refer to that and I know which staple goes where, because they usually have a little bit of character to them. You saw that one, the top arm is slightly shorter than the bottom arm. They usually will have some kind of distinguishing feature that you can use to differentiate them. Not always, but often. And frankly, if you can't, then maybe them being swapped is not quite as big a deal. Note here the upper arm even shorter than that of the bottom staple. Right? So now I have both of them out. I'm going to preserve the orientation and location, and then I'm going to get them out of my workspace. I don't want to have that tape snag on anything or anything snag on it. And the book is disassembled. We got a lot of work to do on this project, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to start with this cover. Those of you that have been around the channel for a while know that we recently had a similar era Flash comic book that we conserved, and during the process, although we accomplished all of our conservation goals, we also had some unfortunate ink loss to the cover, with which I was very disappointed. You can watch that video here if you like. During the final review for that conservation project, when comparing the before and after pictures and consulting with our fellow comic book conservators, I posited that the ink loss was almost certainly from rocking the tray in which we did our wet cleaning, deacidification, and resizing during those procedures. Rocking the tray was intended to increase convective flow to help with removal of contaminants and penetration of our solutions into the paper matrix. Unfortunately, as gentle as the movement was, rocking the floating cover in the aqueous bath introduced some abrasion that, combined with the temporary weakening of the paper during the resizing bath, resulted in the ink loss. You can watch my summary video for the project here for a deeper discussion of my assessment of the treatment and results. One of the reasons I chose to work on this copy of Flash 123 is that I wanted to run that treatment back on a very similar comic book, but without the rocking for the convective flow. So next episode we'll do just that: wet cleaning, deacidification, and resizing of this cover, and see if the outcome supports our conclusion. I sincerely appreciate you joining me today for the conservation process of this key Silver Age comic book. Do you think we'll be able to run the process back without ink loss to this cover? I'll be dropping episode 3 soon, so stay tuned. Most of the materials I will be using for this project are available from Amazon and the affiliate links in the video description if you need any of them for your own conservation efforts. If you enjoyed this video, please take a few seconds to give it a thumbs up and leave me a comment, And please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. It really helps me get the word out. Until next time, take care of one another.